Good morning. I want to thank everyone for being here today. Our county is going through a difficult time, and it is important for each and every one of us to remember and understand it is COVID-19 that we need to focus on defeating. We cannot lose sight of that simple reality. It is COVID-19 that is attacking our community. It is COVID-19 that is impacting our ability to live our normal lives. It is COVID-19 that is impacting our children's education, hurting our economy, and affecting our small businesses. A once-in-a-generation global pandemic, a pandemic that requires us to confront it honestly, openly, and with a steady hand, to be honest about the realities and the difficult choices that we have to make to try to bring a sense of calm, to try to bring us together to get through this difficult period. Instead of that, we are seeing an awful lot of this bringing out the very worst. We see people attacking doctors, questioning public health experts, sharing misinformation, stating things that are simply and unequivocally untrue. We see another group of folks telling people to just wish it away. Let's just ignore it. Let's just act like it's not here and everything will be okay. We see an environment where instead of taking accountability for what we're doing and acting responsibly, we come up with excuses. We got to have someone to blame. Contrary to what some of my colleagues are telling you, this pandemic was not caused by the state of California. Contrary to what some of my colleagues are telling you, this pandemic was not caused by Governor Gavin Newsom. It isn't the fault of San Diego State University, and it certainly isn't the fault of a color-coded metric system. And we're not being honest with the public when we don't confront the realities of what we face and find a way to responsibly chart ourselves through this situation. In particular, Supervisors Jim Desmond and Kristen Gaspar are inciting a fight between government and small business. They are exploiting the pain and suffering that small businesses are going through as a result of a global pandemic as a wedge for political gain. It is reckless and irresponsible leadership. Right now in San Diego County, we need to focus our efforts on battling COVID and not seek out distractions and excuses to deflect us away from the difficult work we need to do. Now is the time as a county to be safe, to be strong, and to beat COVID. As elected officials, we bear the obligation to make difficult decisions, even if they're unpopular, to confront facts, to try and guide our region through a very, very difficult time. I've been in difficult times. I've served in combat situations in environments where life and death was at risk, and it's really easy in that environment to say, well, I just wish this wasn't the case. Let's act like we're not here. Let's act like this isn't happening, or to blame it on somebody, but that doesn't help. What helps is us calmly working the problem, navigating our way through there, trusting and respecting the people you see standing here behind me. People that want nothing more than to save lives and save our economy. But poor decision making, driven by politics, is impacting our ability to respond. I desperately fought time and again to avoid the situation we face today. In June, I was repeatedly the lone no vote against expedited reopenings. I thought it was a bad decision to open more high-contact, high-risk locations too soon. I repeatedly warned that it could trigger the probability that we would have to reclose the entities we had just opened. I felt strongly it was not only in our public health interest to move slower, but it was in our economic interest to move slower, to move consistently, to have a steady movement from close to open, not open, close, open, close. Now, many of my colleagues had a lot of fun sowing the seeds of discord and discontent at my expense as we tried to work through that difficult environment. Sadly, the expedited reopenings in June bore out to be a mistake. In July, facing significantly rising cases, we were forced to implement additional restrictions. It hurt our economy more than if we'd done it right from the first time. And again, the responsibility we bear, sometimes you have to tell people, that what you want to do might not work out best for us as a region. We have to be willing to make the hard decisions that will help the entire community. And we didn't do that in the first evolution. And then again, we did the exact same thing again. On August 28th, when we were placed in the red tier with the option, our option under local control to open additional business entities associated with the red tier, I strongly recommend we once again move slowly, that we learned the lesson of June. I argued for only opening the entities of lower risk while holding off on the higher risk entities, in particular pointing out that schools and universities were just beginning the process of coming back, and we needed to give them a chance to be successful. We needed to help work through. We need to understand what would happen to our case count as a result of those. My fear at the time, which I stated publicly as I did in June, was expedited reopenings was again put those businesses at the risk of sudden reclosure. And here we are, 3 weeks later, facing that exact same scenario. And now we want to blame the state, or blame San Diego State, or blame a metric system, or blame a tier, or blame a formula that we knew existed for our own decisions, for the situation that we created. I hope beyond all hope that our honest numbers remain in the red and that we can continue to move forward. Because if we do trigger to a higher tier, it will not only have an impact on business, it'll have an impact on schools that haven't yet reopened. And every parent out there wants us to make every opportunity and effort we can to get our schools safely reopened. But again, we didn't have to be in this situation. San Francisco was placed in the red tier the same time as us. But unlike us, they chose a different path. They chose to move a little slower, a little more cautiously, and as we are now staring down the prospect of moving up a tier, they're preparing to move down a tier, to then open their businesses at a time in which they won't have to turn around and close them again. We could have been in the same position. Regardless of the outcome of tomorrow's numbers, and I do believe there's a decent chance we stay in the red tier, certainly possible we move into a higher tier, we won't know until perhaps tomorrow. But regardless, it is time as a county we redirect our energy and our efforts towards slowing the spread, exercising caution, making difficult decisions, and doing it responsibly. We're in a battle against the virus, and we must confront and accept that reality. Before we hear from a few speakers, I want to speak directly to those small business owners and workers who are being most impacted by this situation. I know this is difficult. Being in small business is hard as it is, much less during a global pandemic. But simply telling you that ignoring public health orders or to blame someone else, it would not be telling you the truth. It wouldn't be honest. My colleagues are exploiting your pain and your anguish, and it's wrong. I am sorry you are facing the prospect, some of you, of having to close your indoor operations again, and I wish that wasn't happening. I fought hard to avoid this situation, but it's where we are, and I know that you simply want to run the business you built your life putting together. I know you want to feed your families and you want to support your workers. But what is being sold to you as a solution will not help your situation. It will only make it worse. We have seen countries try the approach being advocated for here. And what was the result? Death rates far in excess of surrounding countries with zero economic benefit. Zero economic benefit. The only responsible path out of this is slow the spread, open safely and responsibly, and do all that we can to help those who have been impacted. There are limits in a county government of what you can do in an economic crisis. But my office has fought for over $100 million in help and assistance. My office proposed that $21 million be used to create the county's relief program for small businesses and restaurants. My office proposed $25 million in rent relief and assistance program to go directly to the tenants and those who own the facilities. My office partnered with the San Diego Foundation to create a community response fund that has raised more than $50 million to help individuals and businesses as you deal with the situation that you did not create. Now, I know you don't want help and assistance, you just want to work. I get that. But reckless reopenings will not help your business. And lastly, we must acknowledge that in this pandemic, not every community is being impacted the same. In the state of California, there's been a 5-fold increase in COVID-related deaths among the Latino community between May and August. According to the state of California, we have more than 328,000 Latinos who have contracted COVID. More than 7,000 have died. Latino deaths are higher than any race or ethnicity in our state. In San Diego, Latinos account for more than 62% of all COVID infections, almost half of all deaths, but make up just more than 30% of our population. Many Latinos and other people of color have been our frontline heroes during this pandemic. Our healthcare workers, our service care workers, they're going to work on the front lines, and they are counting on us as a community to chart a response and a path forward that serves all of us. Anytime you're in a tough fight, you want trained professionals on your side. Folks who are experts in the field and who can give you clear, objective, non-biased information. In a global pandemic, that means you rely on folks who are trained and have expertise and know how to fight global pandemics. That's why you rely on public health experts, scientists, medical professionals, infectious disease experts. But it's not enough to just have them talk. You actually got to listen to what they say. And then you got to have the courage to try and put that into practice in guiding our way through this.